All right. What is going on, you guys? And welcome back, to episode 4 of the Faith Hunters podcast. The episode they say a lot of people don't get to. We are actually on episode 4. They say most podcasts don't make it past 3. I'm still trying to figure out all the getting this published. So right now we're just watching the YouTube version, but we'll have them out on everything here shortly, trying to get all that lined up. But that leads perfectly into the point. And if you saw the title of this one, this is called Just Start. And as simple of a concept as that sounds, that is one of the hardest concepts to follow. You'll hear this in future videos. We'll talk about it all the time. My father worked for a man called Zig Ziglar. Now, if you don't know who that is, look him up. Kind of famous. Not that my dad's famous, but the fact that he worked with Zig Ziglar back in the early days before he, YouTube and all this. We're talking back in the 70s and 80s. Yep, getting up there in age. And he used to tell a story. And it was, if a friend called you tomorrow, said, "Hey, bud, I have an all expenses paid weekend trip. We're going to Acapulco." Now, I guess back in the 80s, that was a big place. Most of us have to Google it to even find that on a map. But if they said, "You got to go, but here's the kicker. It's all expenses paid, but we leave tomorrow," I would guarantee, I would be willing to bet, I don't make guarantees on other people's lives, that you could find a way to get the house situated, the job situated, the money situated, the kids, whatever you had to get situated for a free trip to, we'll call Hawaii. Bow hunter, hey, you know what? Hey, guys, I got this. Hey, we got this leftover elk tag. Season starts tomorrow. We can't fill it. You can go. Could you be ready? Could you be ready in short notice to go do something? I bet most of us, if we were honest, said, yeah, I could. And so when we find ourselves in those situations where it's unexpected, no matter good, bad, and different, there's two things that typically happen. One is the brain spotlights. This is where the brain, in order to keep you alive, in order to keep you healthy, in order to keep you safe, spotlights all the things that could go wrong if you do what you do. If you do this, here's everything that can go wrong, right? This, that, and the other. And we go, whoa, and we get our defenses up. Fear. Almost all decisions that we make, are based on fear of some sort, either a lack of it or too much of it. And the second thing that happens, and you've all heard this term, is analysis by paralysis. The second thing that happens, that we've all heard this term, is paralysis by analysis. And what does that mean? We all know what that means. We start, oh, I can't do this because I don't have this. I don't have that. This isn't set up. Now, I'm not talking about the spotlight to keep you alive. I'm talking about the worst that could happen. I'm talking more the gear or the situations or what we might not be. I'm not in shape. And so one thing that I've heard recently, it's actually a very good point, is that's the point of being ready all the time. Walking 10 miles like I did, or 5 miles a day, or working out every day, I'm not getting ready for anything. I mean, from the stance that, yeah, I have hunts coming up and I'm getting ready, but I just want to be ready. There are a lot of deals and stuff that I know, and some places that I'm at with hunts where things just randomly pop up. And you got to be ready. You got to be ready for that guy to say, "Hey, we're going to Acapulco," right? But the biggest thing, and even with this YouTube channel that I've started, and the Facebook and all the stuff that I've built up with this, I didn't know what I was doing from the standpoint of there's some master plan that I've got, a 15-year plan. I've got plenty of ideas. I'm working every day to work towards those ideas. But the thing is, and the point of the podcast, and we'll get into a little bit more obvious detail, is to just start. Just start. What is the worst thing that could happen if you start exercising? What's the worst thing? Because here's what we say. We say, what if? What if I start exercising, I do it for 3 months, and I lose 15 pounds, and then this happens and that happens, we start spotlighting, and I gain it all back, and that 3 months was a waste of time. Well, no, it actually wasn't. That was 3 months that you were ready, that you could do things, that you could get excited about. What are you excited about? What are you working towards? And the only way to get to anything is to start. It is not, Steve Harvey, you've seen his clip with the just jump. You have to start. You have to. Fear is a liar. I love that phrase. It's a song by Zach Williams. You should listen to it sometimes. And it's called Fear is a Liar. It's all the things that we can say it's the world. You can say it's the devil. I will say 90% of the time it's you. What are the things that you're telling yourself that persuade you or dissuade you from doing what you want? And I've talked about, hunting. We'll get into my first deer kill, right? And so I didn't know what I was doing. We made that evident by the fact that I climbed up in a 10-inch tree and sat there. But I just kept going. My gear didn't get any better. I didn't get a new rifle. There was no YouTube. I didn't read any books. I just kept going. And sooner or later, you're going to have dumb luck sometimes, but you're working in the right direction. So I go out to my buddy's property, which I talked about in the first podcast, and I get there and it's 0 dark 30, and everybody, I'm not really knowing going. There's a wood pile I'd heard about, and he says, "Hey," and I can't remember the guy's name. Gunnery sergeant name's Gunny. Gunny so and so's not coming. His stand's out there in the creek. You can go hunt that stand. Now, again, for an inexperienced hunter who didn't know what he's doing, I didn't really even know what that meant. But it's literally go down the creek, go right. It's over in that area. So there I am with my Walmart flashlight and my Walmart camouflage with no binoculars and my borrowed rifle, just starting. And I go down to the creek in the dark. I hang a right, and I'm and I get probably 200 yards down the creek, and I find what is obviously the stand. Now, there are several different types of stands, and many of you may know there's ladder stands. There's, this was a climber stand. It's one, and I post a picture for the YouTube guys, but basically you face the tree. It's two pieces. I don't know any of this at the time. I'm explaining this from history, and, you sit down and you stand on the bottom platform, and you stand up and you pull up the seat, and you sit down on it, and then you pull your feet up. It's a climber that you face the tree. Well, I probably got, now this is eastern North Carolina, pine trees. I guarantee you, I got 35 feet up in this tree. I just kept going until the tree got too thin. I was like, this'll do, right? I didn't know what I was doing, but I just started. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at the trees, and I don't see anything, and I don't see anything, and it's probably 8:30, 9 o'clock at this point, and then all of a sudden I hear something crashing, because this is, again, eastern North Carolina, bears, and all, real dense. I just hear something running, and I catch a glimpse, and as dumb as I am, and as experienced as I am, I know it's a deer, right? That's the extent of what I know. And I've got this 270, and I've probably got it on 12, 14 power magnification, and this deer runs straight below me. So I look down, I see brown, pull the trigger, it drops. Like, just drops, straight down, and its head goes into a puddle. And I am, y'all don't understand, the tree's shaking, I am excited. I have killed my first deer. And so I shimmy down the tree. Probably took me 30 minutes. I'm kidding, of course. To get down the tree, I walk up, and the deer's dead. It's right there. I was like, oh, it's a doe. I said, oh, but it's a deer. And then I pull it up by its ear. And again, this will be on the YouTube video. I'll post a picture of it. But this had to be the most inbred North Carolina deer you have ever seen in your entire life. He had one side had no antlers, but two little 2-inch sprigs coming out of it. And the right side or left side of it was about 5 inches of antler with a growth off the back, but he was a 5-point. And so I commenced to drag this deer by the antler every bit of 3/4 of a mile, I would say, back to camp. And some guys are still hunting and they're coming and going. But here's what I realized very quickly. In my haste to just start, in my haste to be a new hunter, I had no idea how to skin a deer. No idea whatsoever. And I'm trying to get advice, and nobody's around. And then the gunnery sergeant shows up, and I'm like, hey, he's like, I got to get to my stand. You killed that out of my stand. He was very, very cool about it. But he's like, hey, I got to go. And so he went. And so I took a knife and hacked the living fire out of this deer in my buddy's driveway, dirt road, got it gutted and kind of threw the guts into the forest. Like I said, he backed up to this land, and I probably didn't do him any favors. And if I ever see him, I'll apologize for that. And I took it into the processor, and I convinced, at 19 years old with my first deer, and the reason I have the picture, I convinced my dad in Louisiana to mount my first deer for me. Dad, I want a shoulder mount. And I still have that shoulder mount to this day. And I look at that deer and say, that is the ugliest deer I have on my wall. And people look and they laugh when they see the deer. Like, why would you mount that? It's like, y'all don't understand the monument that deer is. Y'all don't understand what he represents. To some people, he's just an ugly deer from North Carolina. To me, that was the greatest trophy on my wall. And I've got some good ones behind me. I've killed a lot of deer. And some of these are my family's deer, but I've killed a lot of deer. But how did I get it? I just started. And I saw a podcast, and it was Steve Rinella, and he was talking, and people obsess over caliber if they're deer hunting or elk hunting. What caliber this, what caliber that. And my bow, I have obsessed again, these are learning points for me. I have obsessed over arrow weight. You've seen me, I've made videos about some of it. It's just arrow speed just because they're good content. But the paralysis by analysis that I have gone through, and he says you need to worry about your boots. You need to worry about your pack, but just start. You're not going to know how to do anything if you've only done it once or you've never heard it before. Now, thank God there we have the information overload that we have today. You can get way ahead start of where I got when I started, or where other people got when they started. And we'll go into my start in duck hunting and my start in deer hunting. But that was my soiree into the hunting. And I figured it all out on my own with zero help. But I did it because I started. So we sit here and you just worry so much about the details, and those details stop you from starting. You can do that, and you will get nowhere. You will go on no hunts because you won't be able to decide where you want to go hunt. You will not have a good rifle because you won't know which rifle, and you'll be constantly wondering, well, do I have the right rifle? Is this the right scope? Is this the right caliber? Is this the right arrow? Do I have my sight sighted in? Is this the right sight tape? You can worry yourself to death, and what you will do is what most of us do, and you will do nothing. You won't ever start. You won't ever start your own business that you're passionate about. You won't ever go on the dream hunt that you've wanted to go. You won't do any of it because you'll spotlight everything that can go wrong. And at the same time, you'll worry about it whether you have the right gear, or you'll have the right gear. And here's one for you. You'll have the right gear, but you'll have spent so much time obsessing over which gear to get that you don't know how to use what you have. I'll have a video coming up about a new rangefinder. I got it now so that I can use it. I have my bow for 2024 set up in 2023 so that I can use it. I have my arrow picked out so that I can use it. That's where you get, but that applies to anything. You want a better relationship with your kids, you have to start. And you know what your kids are going to say? Why are you giving me a hug? You're not a hugger. They're going to be resistant. Your body is resistant. I'm very careful about telling friends and family stuff because they're typically resistant. I told my wife a story just the other day about something I was thinking. And out of the blue, she hadn't came up with ideas, because normally my wife just pats me on the head when I come up with ideas because I have a lot of them. That's how I got to almost 280 pounds. And so they see me working out and they say, oh, continue to work out. I have another YouTube channel, and everybody thought it was crazy when I started it. That channel is now monetized and brings me a little bit of money, but I stuck with it. So now, people aren't going to necessarily believe in you, but you have to start. If you ever want support, if you want your family to get behind you, you have to start. You have to prove that it's real. And that may take 2 weeks, 30 days, or 10 years. I don't know. But you have to stop analysis. You have to stop spotlighting and just start. And guess what the greatest thing about life is? Life allows for mistakes, because this is the only life that you have. You only get to do this thing once. The sun came up today. That's one less day I have. The moon is going to come out. That's one less night I have. And I love sleep as much as the next guy. But I've been, if you've seen some of the videos, working to change my life and trying to help you change yours. And that's where I'm going with this. But none of that would have mattered if I hadn't started. If I hadn't bought the supplements that I bought just to get them and started taking them. And now I take them all the time. Start working out. I hadn't walked in my first day of walking. I did 5 miles and could barely walk the rest of the day. But I started. And now I did 10 miles on Christmas. And now I do 4 to 5 miles a day. 10 miles could prove that I could. And because I may have pigged out a little bit, I was punishing myself. But now I do 5 miles a day. And I have started a very small workout regime. I have a very small workout system. I can't say that word right now. And I'm slowly going to expand it. But I started. And you can start. Because what if? What if you start and it works? I've heard that said so many times. What if you start and you actually are good at something that you don't think you're that good at? Or, like me, I've never edited a video and lighting and all that. I learned this, and so I'm podcasting now. And it seems, for a fat, middle-aged guy, this seems like, oh, that's what all the kids are doing. No, I love this. This is fun, but I never would have discovered this passion had I not just started. And you can do that. Trust me, I'm going to put out more videos. You've heard the story of the worst deer ever killed that I killed. You've seen where I'm going. I'm hoping to bring you along. God bless. We'll see you on the next one.